So, we live at a time in history where we can be any place at any time, where an idea can travel the world in an instant. And yet, on some of our most pressing social issues, we are resistant to new ideas and stubbornly cling to old, outdated methods that have proven not to work and in fact can be damaging. One idea that's been gaining a lot of traction recently is harnessing the power of the arts to lift up and change our social justice issues. We often think of the arts as a luxury, an add-on to our daily life. But right here in the Central Valley, a few miles down the street, a silent revolution is happening in the darkest, most hidden of places. 11 years ago, we at the Actors Gang Theatre Company started to bring our style of theatre into prisons in the hope of giving people tools to help repattern behavior. What we found is that through the power of the mask that we bring and through the joy of transforming our emotional life together, this work had a profound impact on our incarcerated students, not to mention the staff and their families and friends, and also the culture of which they are a part. So thanks to the skill of our teaching artists, some of whom were formerly incarcerated, the courage of our students, and the support of foundations, partners, and staff, this little program has now expanded into 12 prisons, 2 reentry programs, a girls' juvenile camp program, and last week we just completed an amazing 2-day pilot program with correctional and probation officers. Pretty amazing. We've discovered so many things in these last 11 years, but probably one of the most profound is that people who are incarcerated, particularly as young people, usually don't come from similar circumstances to me, or probably to most of you. There are large swathes of the population of this country who have no discernible fear of prison, and in fact have expectations to spend some time there, just like so many people have expectations to go to university. So I have never been incarcerated, nor has anybody in my family. So why am I talking to you today about something that is not my lived experience? Well, I'm an immigrant, and as an immigrant, I'm an outsider, and I have the privilege of viewing this culture through a different lens, just like you would be able to view mine. And I see, as also a teaching artist working in prisons, that while I'm part of the system, I'm also divorced from it. And at this tumultuous time in our history, where ideologies clash and rhetoric is prevalent, it's really important that we're having the real conversations about the real issues below the outrage-provoking surface. So, why should I care about people who are incarcerated, or why? Why should I care about what happens to them when they're behind bars or when they return to us? Why, when I'm just trying to live my daily life, should I care about statistics or voices that have been silenced? Well, much as we might like to deny it, as a society, we have helped to create the systems and often the reasons for mass incarceration. Of course, not everybody who was born into poverty or grows up in more challenging circumstances goes to prison, and so people must accept responsibility, and in my experience, they mostly do. But when we incarcerate huge amounts of people for crimes that we could deal with in our communities, we waste precious resources that could be better spent addressing serious crime and real rehabilitation. We all lose. Between 1980 and 2014, the number of women incarcerated in this country grew by 700%. Our women and girls have shown us that when we incarcerate them for crimes we could deal with in our communities, for instance, most drug-related crimes, we create generational damage. And when we incarcerate our girls, we all lose. Most girls who are incarcerated have extreme trauma that they're dealing with that caused them to not be able to concentrate at school and got them pushed out and led them into dangerous and damaging situations. And yet, they are dreaming still. As one of our girls wrote, "My dream doesn't involve fancy things, expensive taste, even though that would be nice. All I would wish is to have a better family and another chance. I'm not saying I have any regrets, because I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for what happened yesterday. And another student wrote this beautiful poem. All the judgmental minds, not taking it in that I too can be kind. I also have a heart. I did what I did because my whole world was falling apart. Wanting someone to understand that my mistakes don't define me. All I wanted was someone to stand right by me so I wouldn't give in to the demons and hold my head highly. So what can the arts do? Well, the arts, when done well, can affect a part of the human condition that nothing else can reach. They act on the psyche like cognitive behavioral therapy and give us a mirror to hold up for us to be able to take responsibility for our emotional life. In our modern society, the arts are usually last in, first out. And I used to think that that was the fault of a population who just didn't understand what artists did. But now I can see that actually that's the responsibility of an artist, that we as artists are responsible for the lack of understanding about the importance of the arts. And when I was 18, I became a professional dancer and actor. And I was really excited to launch myself on this career where I'd been training since I was 3 years old. And so I threw myself into it, safe in the knowledge, as I had been taught, that my success lay in how many people knew my name and how much I was paid as a result. And of course I wanted to be good, but I was also taught that good lay in the eyes of audiences and critics and employers. And so I was lucky enough to have some of that success, but it always felt hollow. And I became aware that the mountains I had to climb to maintain and expand that success just became higher and higher. And so I started to view my work as something very special and magical that audiences could observe but never really be a partner in, until I started working in prisons. And that's where my journey as an artist really began. So as I said, in our modern society, so often the arts are last in and first out. And it is our responsibility as artists to teach young artists what the arts can do. If we use our art and think of it as rarefied and elitist, or only the domain of special magical people, or we use it just to gain fame and fortune, we as artists create the circumstances for the belittling and marginalization of this incredible call of the human spirit. We have to have universities that teach their art students how the arts can affect social change. We must have the arts in the core of the school day, not as some elective that only kids who are interested in the arts can do, because the people we have to reach the most are the people who have previously had no access. In our work, we ask our students to play characters in highly emotional states. And we ask them to do it looking in the eyes of another human being, allowing themselves to be witnessed. That is something you do not do in prison. It can get you hurt or even killed. But in our room, it's a safe space where people of all backgrounds, races, and gang affiliations can come together and become vulnerable and learn how to overcome problems together as an ensemble. As one of our students said, that they gain empathy. And when you have empathy, it's very difficult to commit crimes. So they say, I care about everyone now. That's what it's done for me. I don't need this program to get out of prison. I need this program to stay out of prison. In classical times, the arts were seen as an essential part of human life. And in most indigenous cultures, they still are. The arts were viewed on the same level as science or medicine, and artists were viewed more like shamans than celebrities. In the time of the ancient Greeks, the arts were looked to make order out of chaos. And in cultures that have forgotten this, society suffers. And we lose the ability to confront our issues with vision and creativity. As William Shakespeare says in Hamlet, The purpose of playing is to hold, as 'twere, the mirror up to nature, to show virtue her own feature, scorn her own image, and the very age and body of the time, his form and pressure. And so here we are, with one of the most pressing issues of our modern times, and we still think that we can incarcerate and punish our way out of it. In California, we have 35 prisons. 14 of them are right here in the Central Valley. They are mostly filled with people who are poor, of color, and indigenous. And they're mostly there for drug or gang-related crimes, both indicators of issues in our communities that we are not dealing with well. And yet we forget that as humans, as Americans, we are part of a long history that has created this system. And we have the opportunity to change it, to have different outcomes that will save money, potential, and lives. But we have to do something different. We have to change how we think. And that is the hardest things for humans to do. But we cannot go back to issues and approaches that have been proven to create more damage, like so-called tough on crime. If we marginalize the transformative power of the arts and we try to approach our problems with fear and ignorance instead of courage and knowledge, we will continue to suffer as a community and as a society. We're at a pivot in history right now. What we do matters. I urge you to go deeper, ask difficult questions, and then silently listen to the answers, especially when they challenge what you hold to be true. Our incarcerated students have the courage to do this. Shouldn't we? Thank you.